10 o'clock on my clock. I will bring the select board meeting back into order after our recess for executive session. Being June 4th, 2024, 7 p.m. Note this meeting is being televised, streamed, or recorded by Bourne TV. If anyone in the audience is recording or videotaping, they need to acknowledge at this time. Use of flash photography during select board meetings is prohibited. If anyone from the public wishes to access the meeting, they can do so by calling the following conference line, 1-929-205-6099. The Zoom meeting ID is 869-5775-5505, and the password is Bourne, all uppercase, B-O-U-R-N-E. The Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. All items within the meeting agenda are subject to deliberation and votes. We will begin with a moment of silence to recognize our troops and public safety personnel. Next is salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the reading of the vision and the mission. Would someone like to read the vision?
Let's see, what are we doing first? Vision. I'll do it. Bourne is a proud community that embraces change while respecting the rich heritage of the town and its villages. It is a municipality based on strong fiscal government with a durable economy that recognizes the rights of all citizens, respects the environment, especially the coastal areas of the community, and the amenities that it affords. Bourne embraces excellent education and offers to citizens a healthy, active lifestyle.
And the mission statement?
Mission, Bourne will maximize opportunities for social and economic development while retaining an attractive, sustainable, and secure coastline and environment for the enjoyment of residents and visitors. For responsible and professional leadership and in partnership with others, Bourne will strive to improve the quality of life for all residents living and working in the larger community.
Thank you.
I can see them in the back of the room.
Okay, next item is report out on the executive session. The select board met in executive session to discuss a response to recent open meeting law complaints. During the executive session, the select board voted first to authorize town council to respond to the complaints. Second, that the finalized response will be posted on the town website. 3, to approve and release the executive session minutes of April 10th, 2024 and April 30th, 2024. And 4, the select board will schedule an agenda item on June 11th, 2024 to re-vote acceptance of the terms of the notice of sale dated April 17th, 2024, that was previously voted and reported out on April 30th, 2024. Community shout out and recognition. So my shout out is for congratulations to all of the 2024 Bourne students who graduated this past weekend from Bourne High School, Upper Cape Tech, and Sturgis Charter Schools. From the presentations that were made, I want to make 2 kind of shout-out recognition notes. One, at Bourne High School, seniors graduating received $907,330 in scholarships and grants. And $123,529 of that came from local organizations and local donations. So that's a really great shout out to our community for supporting our students. And at Upper Cape Tech, 49 seniors comprised from the towns of Marion, Wareham, Bourne, Falmouth, and Sandwich. There were 49 seniors who received John and Abigail Adams scholarships and are eligible for 4 years of free tuition at UMass or any of the 9 states or 15 community colleges in Massachusetts. It's really impressive also. So congratulations to the graduates and to our community for helping them get there. Yeah. And Peter, you want to make a sports shout out or?
Congratulations for the various teams from Upper Cape Tech and Bourne High School who are in the spring playoff mode. You all done well this year, and congratulations getting as far as you did.
Yep. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, it was a great weekend and perfect for graduation. Okay, next is public comments on non-agenda items. Has anyone signed up for public comment on non-agenda items? Okay. Sandy? Okay. So I'm going to read my little thing here. Public comments are allowed for up to a total of 12 minutes at the beginning of each meeting. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes for comment. Board members are unable to respond due to posting requirements of the open meeting law. So please introduce yourself and make your public comment.
Hi, I'm Sandy Goldstein from County Road, Katomet, and I have some questions and some comments about 340 MacArthur Boulevard, the old Cartwheels 2 property there. I drove by there in mid-May and I noticed the clear cutting of all the vegetation and the building being sort of ripped apart. I said, kids could not have done that. But as far as any kind of plan or expertise, I don't know who did it. But I thought to myself, how could that be? What is happening there? That was Cape Cod Commission originally. Auspices required what was there to be there. And I don't know what's going on there. I tried to find out. I asked a friend of mine, he noticed it. I had no idea. May 27th, I sat down and I penned something to the Enterprise to ask and to make comments about it. It never got in there. I have it right here now, but it never got in there because of, I don't know, some editing I had to do. This is it. She said, I don't know why I didn't put it in there. But tree cutting is what I actually started the little paragraph with, that the planning board had made such a very big to-do about the Upper Cape Tech clear-cutting some trees there without a permit. And, and it turns out, well, it's an educational institution. They don't need one for that. For what they did, they don't need it. But here's this piece of 6 acres of land on MacArthur Boulevard, prime property, right on the street, ripped apart, looks like Ukraine, looks better in places, not to diminish them in any way. And I thought, what in heavens? And then I find out that they had permission. It's a unique zoning situation, and they can waive a site plan review. What unique situation? I want to know. Come to find out, there is no unique situation. They are under the auspices of the Cape Cod Commission to continue whatever plan there was there, at least in water, sewer, drainage, etc., and landscaping and traffic and parking, whatever. They have to go through them. The Grand Union did the same thing, if you remember. When the supermarket came in, the Cape Cod Commission oversaw everything. And when they left and a new company came in, the storage units, they also had to go through that. And they didn't have a lot to do because they didn't need extra sewer, they didn't need more water, they didn't need parking because they were going to cover it over with storage units. And so the landscape.
You're coming up to your 3 minutes.
Well,
just try to finish
there are
up.
other people wanting to get here. I don't want to take the whole 12 minutes. But I'm just concerned. I would like an explanation from the planning board. Was that put before the planning board on an agenda? you know, for the planning board, here's this company coming in here, and they can waive site plan review. And all 8 other people sitting there said, and they either had a discussion, or they all voted yes to do that. How did that company get that far? It's June, whatever, and it's a long time there. They got away with that, or they didn't even know. And if Ms. Copeland, I'm surprised she wouldn't know that is not something you can waive site plan review. And did she present it to them? Did they come to her? How did it happen? I'd like an explanation somewhere, either from the planning board or from Ms. Copeland, how that got to be the way it did, how it got that far. And whoever has it, they've got their work cut out for them to comply. I mean, they've already done an awful lot. I don't know what they'll be required to do, but it's an eyesore. It's a beautiful piece of property, and the town of Bourne deserves a little better than that. Maybe we could attract something more interesting as well, somehow. But that's my comment. It's an eyesore, it's a disgrace. I'm very upset about it. It shouldn't have happened. And how did it happen? Did it come before the planning board on an agenda item as the chair or whoever presented it? I don't know, maybe the vice chair did. But whoever did that get presented as a project that is allowed to waive site plan review? And how do you all feel about it? And did they vote? And what role did Ms. Copeland have in advising the people that wanted to do this project, whatever they're doing there? By the way, I drove in there as much as I could and walked around. There wasn't anybody. But at the front door, the building's in sideways. The front door has a building permit on it, or it had, signed by our building inspector, Ken Murphy, for installation of residential windows. That's what it said. And they were the owner and the installer, 3 initials, 3 initials. I looked them up before I left the parking area. Then it was parking area. I couldn't find anything about any of them. I'd like some explanation either, you know, when you do it here or somewhere. I'd like an explanation of how it got that far. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Seeing none. The consent agenda is 1-day beer and wine license for an event, St. Margaret's Church, 143 Main Street, Bourne, on June 8th, 2024, as conditioned by departments. Discussion and possible vote, Buzzards Bay Coalition, road use for annual watershed ride, October 16th, 2024, subject to departmental conditions. Authorize letter of support for the peace pole that was previously accepted as a gift from the Rotary, and you received a supplement with that proposed draft letter. And set the date for the the fall town meeting as October 21, 2024. Open the special town meeting warrant on Wednesday, June 5th, 2024 at 9 a.m. and close it on Thursday, September 19th, 2024 at 4 p.m.
Motion to approve the consent agenda on the agenda of 6/4/2024.
Motion by Peter, second.
Second.
Second by Jean. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. We have Melissa Ferretti on Zoom as she is presently not available to be in person. So it's a roll call vote on all votes this evening. Begin with Jean.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Anne Marie.
Yes.
Melissa.
Yes, thank you.
And MJ votes yes, 5-0-0. Next item is licenses and events. The first one is discussion and possible vote. Ann Cummings, use of Buzzards Bay Park for wedding ceremony and picnic on June 14th, subject to departmental conditions. Is there any discussion on that? Is there anyone here to speak for Ann Cummings? Any questions from the board? Everything's in order?
It is.
Okay, is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Jean. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Jean?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
MJ, yes. 500, it's unanimous. Next is discussion of possible vote, Jill Tardif, use of Buzzards Bay Park for graduation party on June 22nd, 2024, subject to departmental conditions. Anyone here to speak for Jill Tardif? Seeing none,
Motion to approve the application subject to the conditions that are in the, that are required by the town departments.
Second.
motion by Peter, second by Anne Marie. Is there any further discussion? And just all these people that are doing Buzzards Bay Park, they realize it's not exclusive use. Just that-
Yeah, exactly.
Just confirming. Okay. All right, seeing no further discussion. Roll call vote. Jean?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
MJ, yes. 500, it's unanimous. Next, discussion of possible vote, Born on the 4th of July, annual parade and event requests for July 4th, 2024. Approval for the parade along Main Street as conditioned by departments.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the chief's, police chief's hands up. I don't know if I was.
Okay,
saying
I'm
that.
gonna read the four things and then I'll read all four things. Use of town electronic signage to promote parade, placement of a banner across Main Street, permission to sell T-shirts along the parade route to raise funds for next year's event. Chief Esup, would you like to speak?
I would, sorry. Just one comment on the use of town signs. The police, I'm assuming those are the police department's variable message boards. I support the use of the signs for traffic direction, like we usually would for an event like this, but I do not support the use to promote the event because that opens us up to having to promote for other events as well, so.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
So, then our motion be to use of electronic signage
For direction.
for traffic notifications and not to promote. Okay,
My motion is to approve the Born on 4th of July annual parade and event request. Approval of the parade along Main Street as conditioned by departments. Use of town electronic signage for traffic notification only. Placement of the banner across Main Street. And permission to sell T-shirts along parade route to raise funds for next year's event.
Second.
motion by Peter, second by Anne Marie. Is there any further discussion or anyone else wish to speak? Okay. Seeing none, it's a roll call vote. Jean,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Anne Marie,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
MJ, yes. It's unanimous, 500.
And then what I didn't see in this, and here on the agenda is they normally want the roads, temporary no parking signs up on Main Street, Academy Drive, and some of the other streets for a small amount of time so they can,
Is that part of the parade along Main Street, or is it, did Chief Esup leave?
the chief.
Chief, you still there?
He's got his hand up.
Him. So, yeah, I would, when I spoke with the organizer, they should have been requesting for the no parking. That would be part of the event planning prior to.
Was it included?
No. Yeah, they have a comment that they have to check with the police department prior to, sorry, I just lost the page.
42. For vehicle participation, no.
Just, well, it said, you're looking at met with organized, discussed and agreed to changes in staging areas and
And road
road closures.
closures, yes.
But we normally have to make a motion that state which,
Well, it's in their safety
it's in-
plan.
yeah.
So,
It is as conditioned by
close out
departments. Is it, do you all consider that that is in as conditioned by departments?
Yes.
As long as that's adequate, that's all I care. If the chief feels it's adequate enough,
I'm comfortable with that.
okay,
Okay,
fine. I just want to make sure I don't want to end up having any surprises at the last minute.
okay. Are we good with, as what we voted? Okay.
Yeah.
Next is discussion and possible vote, Cub Scouts Pack 1620, use of Buzzards Bay Park for end-of-year pack meeting on June 19th, 2024, subject to department conditions.
Motion to approve.
Is anybody here?
Is anyone here for the Cub Scouts?
Yeah, that would be me, Eric Hutchinson.
Oh, hi, Eric.
Hi, everybody.
Do you have anything you want to say about it, or are you just waiting for us to like say it's all good?
My name is Eric Hutchinson. I am the Cub Master for Cub Scout Pack 1620. Basically, we wanted to seek approval to utilize the pavilion area and some of the like green space right there for our end of year celebration. So if I got a crossover event for the Cub Scouts as they get ready to finish up the year and just basically get together and we'll have some pizza that we'll be bringing in for the kids, almost like a pizza party, end of the year party, for having a really good year for the Cub Scouts. So yeah, just wanted to seek approval to see if we would be able to utilize the park for that day. We'll have first aid kids. We have nurse on staff. We also have a lot of people who are like certified in CPR and things of that nature, and other trained individuals. And all kids they'll be with their parents as well too. So no issue with kids being unsupervised or anything like that. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'm definitely here to answer anything you got me at.
Okay,
Just to say, through the chair,
go ahead.
just to say, let your troop know that the other day at Upper Cape Tech, 3 of the graduates were Eagle Scouts that had different projects. So it shows that kids have aspired to move up the ladder and become Eagle Scouts and have their projects, approved and everything else. So it's nice to see that kids are still doing that. So it gives some motivation to your kids.
Absolutely. We can definitely share with them. I don't know if there is anything, in that area right there in the park that might have been Eagle Scout projects or whatnot, but we definitely try to, show kids what the future could look like if they continue their role in Scout.
That sounds great. And it's not a exclusive use of the park, but we're happy to have you use the park. Okay.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that, we would at least be able to stay claim to at least the pavilion itself, just so we can have a place for the kids to congregate and, sit down and eat. We'll have trash bags. We'll, as I said in my application, we'll practice our rules of leave no trace, so we'll make sure everything's cleaned up and cool, so no issues there from us.
Okay, sounds great. All right, did you make the motion already? Motion to approve by Peter. Was there a second?
Second.
A second by Anne Marie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Jean?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
MJ, yes. 500, it's unanimous. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You're all set.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, licenses. Consideration of common victular license for Bourne Breakfast Club, 254 Shore Road, Bourne, pending final inspections. Is there someone here for Bourne Breakfast Club? I don't know who the B is.
Brian, that's for SciTech.
Oh, okay.
There's a Keith Barber.
Oh, could be either, yeah. Okay, so, I don't see anyone here for Bourne Breakfast Club, so is there a motion to approve? We all set to approve this? Yeah?
Yes,
Motion to approve.
pending final inspection.
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Jean to approve pending final inspection. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Roll call vote. Jean?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
MJ, yes, 500. Next is consideration of common victular license for Delish LLC, DBA Delish, 41 Meeting House Lane, Bourne, pending final inspection. So welcome.
That'll be me.
Last but
Showed
not
up.
least. Thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah. Good evening.
You want to tell us a little bit about your new venture?
Yeah, so we're gonna be doing crafty specialty sandwiches and prepared foods and a little bit of like pickup catering trays. So,
That sounds great.
yeah. Prepared foods was it's really
Grab
in
and
demand
go.
right now.
Grab and
Nobody
go,
really
grab and
has.
go.
Yeah, take and bake.
Right, everybody's busy,
Yeah,
Yes.
that sounds good.
running, you know.
I have a question, and it's kind of a, so I noticed on the routing slip that they wanted a business certificate.
Yeah. I did.
And it's Delish LLC. Are you gonna use Delish as a DBA, or are you just gonna be Delish LLC? Do they need
Delish
a,
LLC.
yeah, so do they need a business certificate if they're using
I
their
did get the
LLC
business
name?
certificate.
No.
I did get one.
No, they
No, I don't think you do.
You don't need-
So if you were Delish LLC doing business as
Yeah.
Delish Catering, you would have a different name than your LLC. So that doing business has to be a business certificate giving notice of a different name. But if you're using your LLC name,
Yeah.
then it's the state notification. You're using the name of
The articles
you're
of
you're
organization.
on the articles, you're on the Secretary of State's website, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need a business, yeah, I don't think they need it, so.
No, but there's other conditions still with the.
Yes, but just for that, just for the,
Yes.
because the business certificate's in like $300 or something, so,
Gotcha.
okay.
Motion to approve the common vic license for Delish LLC, pending final inspection.
Is there a second?
Food permit and approval and preoperative inspection
Right,
by the health department.
yeah.
Was there a second?
Second. I said
Second by
yes.
Jean? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none? Roll call vote. Jean?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes,
Melissa?
Yes.
MJ, yes, 500. You're all set?
Thank you.
Pending your final inspections, that is.
I gotta say it was a very smooth process.
Great.
yeah.
When you
Have a good
plan
night.
on opening? When's
Yeah,
your
when's
opening?
Hoping for the 15th of June, but probably push back a little bit.
Okay,
Definitely by the 1st, though.
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll be looking for you. Okay. Okay, next, discussion, SciTech Cable, Internet and Telecommunications Advisory Committee, quarterly update.
Good evening, members of the Select Board. For anybody who doesn't know me, Bob Dwyer, I'm the chair of your Cable, Internet, and Telecom Advisory Committee. Let's see, Liz, et cetera, do you folks have the PowerPoint that I sent?
It's in the packet.
Okay, would you care to project it? I can give you a flash drive with it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
if you can give us the flash drive.
And the folks at home can see this. It is in a folder called SciTech, and you have a choice of a PPT or a PDF.
Thank you.
Apologies for not being here before the meeting. Too many other things going on. Cool. Oh. Okey dokey, if you can even advance to the second slide. This is a cut-down version that more or less parallels the presentation we made in February. So I've cut it down to about 4 or 5 salient slides that we can discuss heavily. The first one is basically to talk about the big opportunity that's on the horizon, the BEAD grant process, broadband equity, access, and deployment. I'm going to use BEAD for the rest of the discussion here. Essentially, it's federal money to upgrade poor service. It's based on the ISP, in other words, on Cape Cod, that's mostly Comcast, having identified what their contention is about the level of service across Cape Cod. And magically, Comcast said there's 100% service, 100 gig up and 100 gig down and 20 gig up everywhere all the time on Cape Cod. We contend that that's inaccurate. We've had a lot of preliminary speed testing that's been done that says that that's incorrect in terms of reaching those speeds both in time and in space. The big challenge process is that anybody who contends that this is not the truth over individual areas, and I'll define areas in a minute, has to go through a challenge process meeting extremely specific testing requirements. And it's going to be done from the home of the users. The area challenge is 6 individuals within what's called a census block group. For those of you who know the demographic data cold, you know what those are. But basically there are, I think, 4 or 5 within the town of Bourne, and there are 57 total over all of Cape Cod. Each of those 57 blocks, if there's to be a challenge for that area, has to have 6 testers who test on 3 successive days and show that their incumbent, almost always Comcast, doesn't achieve 100 down and 20 up. The big difficulty, there are numerous difficulties in terms of demonstrating compliance with this. MBI, the Mass Broadband Institute, has said that they are providing basically somebody to help in each of 10 regions on the Cape to do this testing. The difficulty is the testing has to start June 20th and finish July 20th. So the clock is ticking right now to get this done. And MBI is, frankly, it's missing in action. And we've been complaining at all levels of government, as have many towns, many municipalities, about how unresponsive MBI has been. Luckily, Open Cape has stepped up, and they are going to provide a portal where testers can upload their data into a database. And then the Cape Cod Commission is going to do the demographics. As we well know, they are experts, David Still especially, are experts at providing maps of where these people are or where the tests are. So hopefully, if in a perfect world, if we got a lot of tests, we could identify very quickly where there are data gaps, where Comcast is not achieving this process. If we don't do the testing, if we don't achieve the area challenges, there might be some individual house-by-house challenges that that Comcast or MBI will acknowledge, there'll be a few dollars from BEAD that might remedy those particular individuals. The area challenge is absolutely crucial. That opens the door for the whole block, the whole census block, to be served with, I don't remember the number. Well, but the amount of money is like $140 million.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, for the whole state, it's $147 million.
Right.
In BEAD funding.
Exactly. And presumably MBI will dole that out where the most egregious deficits are. And they've already acknowledged that qualitatively, at least, Cape Cod seems to be underserved. The underserved part of it includes both the fact that there are places that just have poor connections most of the time. There are lots of places where the connection goes down or goes to zero a lot of the time. And then we have our summer slowdown that started last weekend, a Memorial Day weekend, and I experienced it. I won't go through the gory details. But blessedly, they took our advice and they moved the challenge process so it overlaps 4th of July weekend. So really, for our point of view, we want to try to get as many people testing as possible over 4th of July weekend to demonstrate that we've got this, this process. Next slide, Liz.
Can you just stop for a second?
Sure.
So where do people get the dates of the challenge and where they, if they do their testing, how do they get it set up to Open Cape?
Open Cape is preparing a media packet that first has outreach at the awareness level.
Okay.
You know, press releases that can go to the Enterprise, to Cape Cod Times, et cetera. It can be handed out to every neighborhood association. I happen to know that. And then the next level is access to probably a website where they'll give screen-by-screen instructions on how to do it.
Okay.
How to get your computer close enough to the modem to do it. If in some cases they want the computer to be wired to the modem, which means our all-time favorite Ethernet cable, our Cat 6 Ethernet
They
cable.
blame wireless a lot for speed.
Exactly.
slowdown,
So they want to be connected. My internet failed when I was 1 foot away from the modem, so I don't know how. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Your committee members all have their own gory detailed stories here. Liz, can you go to the next slide, please? Just real quick, this is an overview, and it mirrors the slide that we gave in February. Right now, Verizon Fios seems to be rolling out from the Cape Cod Canal on south. We know that there's activity in Gray Gables, Mon Beach, and Waterhouse Road. Somebody just applied and got an offer of 300 up, 300 down Fios along County Road, if I'm not mistaken. It's being rolled out on a street-by-street basis for $55 a month, okay? Which is about half of what Comcast is offering for the service they're offering. You remember the last time we talked about the imminent gap network phase 1 grants? Well, they still haven't fully announced who the winners of those are for $20 million each. There was a strong bias towards the companies. We know that Verizon was awarded grants to half a dozen towns on Cape Cod. Despite your letter to Verizon supporting their application and your letter to Comcast supporting the application, Bourne got nothing. Another big milestone happened just now. The affordable connectivity funding that's been part of the infrastructure grant for a long time expired. So the number of households who can't afford the internet and are underserved based on that dimension is going to skyrocket. Let's see, what do we have next? I won't go over digital equity plans, et cetera. We know that Bourne was awarded an initial $70K grant. I'll talk about that a little bit later. The residential retrofit program, as far as we know, that would provide connectivity to the 4 Bourne Housing Authority facilities around the town. And as far as we know, Bourne got nothing. No awards to the town of Bourne. Once again, actually it will open on June 10th, is the testing period for this this challenge to MBI. The testing has to be completed by July 20th, and there's a little window after that to allow more time to get the information in, and for somebody to do the database and the GIS work to see whether these challenges are on a block-by-block basis. After that, the incumbents can come back and they can rebut any of those findings. And I don't know how long that period is. Then after that, I believe the select board has to sign off on an application for the actual BEAD funding. And I don't know exactly what that process is, and MBI won't tell us what that process is. But it is, it's definitely on the horizon. In June, later in this month, there's going to be a round 2 of GAT network funding. The last one required a $20 million, a huge amount of co-funding from each company to get the grant money.
20% match. It's a 20%
20% match. Thanks for correcting
That's
me.
okay.
Yeah, so, well, if you want $20 million, you've got to come up with $4 million, or, you know, a bond or something to say, hey, we have this money available. Guess what? Except for New Bedford, no municipality came up with that in the application, and New Bedford did not get a grant. Go figure.
Did they say why Bourne was not awarded any of these?
won't tell us anything.
Just for anybody who couldn't hear, my colleague, let me just introduce my colleague Wendy Howland, who's the secretary, the clerk of our board, or our committee, and I saw Brian McCarter, who is online from his remote work location. There might be others who are on right now, too. But we have gotten no communications back, and we've approached it through state legislators, through Senator Markey's office, et cetera, and what you get is shrugged shoulders back from MBI. Excuse my impatience with that, but that's I don't think that's acceptable, at least to us.
Because my thing is, you know, we're denied, but, you know, we were denied this, you know, for this process. But at a minimum, we need to know, we should in writing and find out why, so we
Which
don't make the
process are we
same.
talking about now?
So you're talking about the GAP?
Yeah.
Gap Network.
Gap Network.
The last
uh,
one,
phase-
both the
for
first
phase
one, which is.
The phase one
Yeah.
grants?
Well, the official list of acceptance has not been produced, correct? It's not public, officially
It's embargoed,
public.
right.
Right, so we can conjecture why Verizon didn't pick Bourne, because they're already very active in Bourne right now.
If you will,
But until that list comes out, we probably can't request in writing some of the reasons until it's public,
Sure.
becomes public.
and we can get a look at the winning proposals. As you recall from our February presentation, we said we were going to look at the winning proposals. If we didn't win, identify, you know, key performance indicators that got those entities, towns, municipalities, whomever, those grants, and copy them, whatever,
Yeah.
see if we could do what they did. And we have no information. We can't see the winners, we can't see their proposals, so we're dead in the water as far as that goes.
Although we were awarded the $100,000 grant, that's an MBI grant.
Yes.
Well, 75.
So 70.
70,
Yeah,
not yet.
being held.
Being held.
Reserved.
There's no award.
Reserved. There's no award yet, but being reserved.
I have a question on the residential retrofit grants to existing providers to serve units in town-operated, income-restricted MDUs. I don't think we have any town-operated.
Well,
Town itself doesn't operate any MDUs.
but it's Bourne Housing Authority, okay? It's a separate elected authority,
Okay.
and that's eligible. They were clearly eligible. They had, they initially had a list that had, forgive me, on Belmont Circle, Continental. They had the Continental complex on there, and we worked with Carrie Garcia.
Yep.
And we got the other three on. So the other three were put on their list. We contacted both Comcast and we contacted Open Cape, both of whom have trunk lines that go right beside those facilities, and said, gee, here's easy pickings. All you have to do is just connect off the street and connect some of these.
Open Cape did apply, but was not awarded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they currently
know
not
about
have is there currently with, like, Comcast, or do they have anything to those housing units?
Individuals, I believe, a few of the individuals do connect basis on their own basis with a coax Comcast cable. And
Okay.
and Carrie said that that's worked out on a resident-by-resident basis, and the BHA does not get involved, other than to grant access to run the wire in the building somehow. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Liz. These are our immediate recommendations to you for what needs to be done very soon. We are going to, as a committee, are going to continue collaborating with the Cape Cod Commission and Open Cape to collect these data. and to help these entities assemble the data as part of the Barnstable County-wide action that's going on. We are going to get hopefully very soon, the media kit from Open Cape that we can start to disseminate both to the media, print media, on the internet, Bourne residents' Facebook page, et cetera, and also to, if we can, we'll go to individual residents with this. This hopefully has extremely detailed instructions on how a resident needs to do these tests. We will do what we can to support the individuals who are trying to do these speed tests. We know there's going to be a lot of confusion, especially for those who are underserved because they don't know how to use a computer, or they may not have a computer, or they may be doing it with an iPad or something like that. We will find a way around that. We're going to assist the Cape Cod Commission and Open Cape in terms of assembling these into data blocks. And then when we start to see the data blocks accumulating for Bourne and see where the tests are, if we don't have 6 towards the end of the test period, we're going to be knocking on doors in problem areas. I can probably get 6 on my my internet desert on Kenwood Road right away. And then we'll help either the towns or the county, and it's unclear who has to exactly prepare these challenge applications, to get those into MBI and presumably in front of you for approval if it looks like it's something that isn't automatic. A little further down, if the administration needs any help with any parts of implementing the digital equity plan, both in terms of the connectivity part of it, the instructions part of it, how to get people aware of how the internet works, and maybe how to use new hardware that might be put out there. We can come up with some volunteer time. The other big review that's on the horizon is actually being something that's just been contracted by Falmouth Net. Again, Falmouth Net was the nonprofit that was set up with state funds with an earmark from Vieira to look into options for Falmouth to develop their own internet service given the unresponsiveness of the incumbent ISP. What the MLP, Municipal Light Plant, had done is put out a request for proposals in late last year from companies who were interested in trying to fulfill this need, irrespective of where the funding would come from. They are now doing a comparison study of 3 very different options that were proposed. One is a totally private funded system, totally privately owned, proposed by a company called Boundless LLC, which has it's based in Maine. They already have service around it's either Burlington or St. Johnsbury or both, or Vermont. The second option is a public-private partnership where there's some private equity money that's put in, there's some public bonding money that's put in, and that's being proposed by a company called Bonfire. And the third is an option that's totally owned by Falmouth and totally paid for by the users in Falmouth, because it's paid for with revenue bonds, so that's paid for by the subscriber, and it's developed by essentially the town of Westfield. It's called Whip City Fiber. They have each 3 different, very different models. The report on that is expected maybe in September, and we will look at that for applicability and relevance to Bourne. That should give a good indication of what and this will be a full workup with pro forma numbers, et cetera, 20-year payouts, et cetera, to identify how to pay for that. At the same time, Falmouth is still very interested if they come up with a system and they need more subscribers to potentially invite Bourne residents to join in. So they would come north across the border and start to serve parts of Bourne, hopefully all of Bourne. And we'll continue to talk to other towns to see how they're going forward with this. And lastly, in addition to the challenge testing, we will continue to document the performance of the current ISP, who is making lots and lots of promises in the town of Falmouth right now of how great and how fast their service is. And I'm hearing it's just like, it's wonderful service when it's running, and not wonderful when it's not, or when there's a lot of people on the line, as of last weekend. So that's what we propose to be doing in the immediate next couple of months, actually. Okay, Liz, thank you. This is what we would like to get your support for. Essentially, perhaps on the town website or other places, is get support for any of the publicity, the media kit, et cetera, that comes out from Open Cape, and get that out to as many people as possible. It's crucial that we get hundreds of people doing the testing so that we identify at least 6 within each census block that are having problems. We would need, at some point, maybe on an expedited basis, to come up with a report to give you just an idea of where the data are, where we seem to be having problems, and what would likely be the basis for a challenge that would be submitted to MBI and also to NTIA and the FCC, the feds. There may be a formal application, but MBI hasn't told us what that is. We have no idea exactly what has to be submitted. We may need your approval on a piece of paper, cover letter saying, okay, here is a database, a spreadsheet, something like that, with our challenge data, and that would probably come before you and need a formal vote. We don't know when, we don't know if. Once again, on the digital equity implementation recommendations, we would suggest that for anybody affected by these DE improvements, that you do some kind of testing to get feedback from those folks to say, okay, is this a benefit to them? Ideally, the more of a benefit we can show with $70,000 over the next, it's a 2-year rollout, but presumably a lot of this could be put into place in a shorter period of time. That is something that could put us in place to get more funds. And lastly, Brian McCarter, who is again online, and I talked to a gentleman called Scott McFarland, who is kind of an AmeriCorps coordinator in, I don't know what agency, to tell you the truth, but they are posting 10 AmeriCorps, they call it the American Connection Corps volunteers around the country. Presumably Barnstable County would be a perfect host for that. It'd be another AmeriCorps volunteer that could be put on the Cape with a lot of IT current knowledge. This would be a recent college grad. Right now, the market for IT grads coming out of graduating this June is way down. So this would be an opportunity to get somebody, offering them a chance to live on the Cape for a year and try to help some small towns get connected to the real world. Next slide.
Before you go on, I just want to say that all the AmeriCorps projects and work is done through Barnstable County. So there's a house in Bourne that houses AmeriCorps workers, but that's all done through Barnstable. That's all done through Barnstable County.
No, understood. But at the same time, we could, the Bourne could request time from that person to help out with, depending on what his or her exact expertise is, with some of the parts of this, with some of the education that probably will have to go on under digital equity. They have something called, that was in the plan, it's called a navigator. This person could potentially fulfill part of that role without necessarily spending part of the $70,000 to do that. Just an idea. Not fully scoped out. There is one that's dedicated to this corner of the state, and I'm sure the county is putting their hand up. So we ought to go forward with that. That's my recommendation. I don't know if you have to formally send a letter and say, gee, we would like some help from this American Connection Corps person, but it can't hurt. Last slide, Liz. And thank you to a whole bunch of people for supporting us and for our assistance on this. And the continuing input we're getting from residents about complaining about how bad their service is and looking for a life preserver to try to get something that's better. I think if we get a real system in here, it may well be that Verizon has made plans that they have not told us about where they're going to serve all of Bourne, in which case we do then have an alternative, and certainly the price of Comcast will drop, and maybe the service will improve. In a perfect world, one would hope. So I'm open to questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the board? Anne Marie?
I think one of the key pieces of this, and thank you to the committee, they've been working very hard in trying to keep track of everything going on. It's not easy. I think it's
Hand
important.
is raised, MJ.
Yeah, I see. I'll get to him after the board.
No,
Missy.
that was
Melissa,
Melissa.
okay, I couldn't see it. All right, thank you.
The data piece of this, the challenge is real important. It's a very complex process, and I think I think regionally this approach is going to work with the between Open Cape coordinating with the Cape Cod Commission to create this platform that will allow the challenge process to happen regionally is going to be far more effective than trying to piece together, each municipality trying to do this is just an astronomical feat. So I would ask the board that, they vote to support our, TA in working with the Cape Cod Commission through this process and what they can. It's not going to be a heavy lift for the town itself because regionally it's being coordinated. Did you attend the Zoom meeting with, did they have one yesterday, Monday?
I didn't get notice of it.
Cape Cod Commission, they're planning on meeting.
They were talking about meeting every Monday, and
Monday,
I sent
right.
an email to Cape Cod Technology Council, never got a response. So,
Okay.
But I presume they'll get it going next week.
Right, yeah,
Right.
it was supposed to happen.
Right.
Right. They have far more resources and the ability to handle this challenge and being able to, have one platform to collect this data and then, in return, report it out to each individual towns. And then as we move towards deciding on what our priorities are and the recommendations from the SciTech with respects to, because the BEAD is not just about infrastructure, it's all encompassing and, and as we decide what our priorities are and how we're going to move forward, even with, any type of infrastructure or any type of digital equity priorities, then we'll need this data for this challenge. And the challenge goes till October 20th. It's a very long, so we have that short window
For testing.
for testing, and then there's a rebuttal period, and then MBI then compiles everything, and they report it out to National Broadband Institute.
NTIA or FCC or somebody.
Yep, October 20th would be before we, ever have moved forward with anything, if we do with the data. It would be October 20th.
Well,
It's a very
again, the
long
data will
process.
be in there.
Right, but I'm saying this whole challenge ends October 20th.
Right. We'll know
Before
whether
you can
we've-
do
whether
anything
The challenge
with
has
it.
been accepted.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So there's a lot
It's
of,
a very long, it's a short window for us to collect the data, but it's a very long window for the challenge
And-
itself.
once again, pardon my continued complaints about Mass Broadband Institute, but they're letting us know what the rules are after we played the game.
They're having a
So-
workshop tomorrow, a Zoom, I'll be on it, to
Okay.
hopefully get a little bit more information.
Okay, if you can find out who their facilitator is.
Right, they had put out an RFP. I'm not sure what company is going to provide the resources for this process.
You know,
I
a very,
don't know that.
a very timely question to get an answer for.
Okay, Melissa, you done?
Yes.
Okay, Melissa?
Yeah,
I
I
could
just
go-
wanted to say, you know, Bob and Brian, I mean, I remember when I first was elected, you had started this work, and I'm just really wanting to make this comment because you've really just done some amazing work here. And since Anne Marie's stepped up to the, you know, help with SciTech and all of that, I just really wanted to commend you for the hard work you've done. And this is just a really important initiative, and I know that we all really realized during COVID when we were, you know, stuck at home, sheltered in place with horrible internet connection, trying to do business and all of these things. So I really just wanted to say thank you for the hard work you've all done and the time you put into your presentations, the grants you've written, and I know that they weren't all received, but I just want you to know that the work has not gone unnoticed. So thank you very much.
Thank you on behalf of the committee for this recognition.
Okay, anybody else from the committee? Brian?
I wanted to address Peter's concern about not winning the GAP grant in round one. There was a limit of 20 million per applicant, so there was some picking and choosing areas going on, and also some weighing of what area might be better under BEAD, because if you win GAP in one location, you can't get BEAD funds. So some of the providers like we're probably thinking maybe Bourne's a better candidate for BEAD in an area challenge, especially since BEAD is expected to have more than enough money by MBI's calculations. They believe they have double the money they need to reach all the underserved in the state. So they're actually projecting not having enough sites that are BEAD eligible and having the money redeployed to digital equity. So really, we got to get this challenge process going, and we got to try to get this BEAD challenge because this is a really good opportunity for Bourne, and it's not going to happen again.
Okay. Thank you.
I have to say that I know that you guys want us to take quick action and you want us to like vote things swiftly. I think as a board and as a town administrator, we are challenged by the prioritization of all the things that we have to prioritize. And the select board has to decide what we want our town administration to spend time on and how much time we want them to spend on it. And we have a number of things that are putting a lot of pressure right now on our town administration. In addition to the comprehensive wastewater management plan, the Southside Fire Station, we're trying to implement the licensing of marijuana, there's the digital equity, there's this, there's other things that are happening. And so it's really important for us to prioritize and say, you know, what is it when you say have the town administrator support doing the BEAD challenge? How does the town administrator have to get involved in the BEAD challenge?
Well,
I mean, is it when the media kit's there that we put it up on the Bourne website so that people can see it? I mean, is that the extent of it, or is that, you know, what's involved? And that would be really helpful, I think, for the select board before we take a vote, for you guys to say, by support of the town administration, we mean advertising the media kit that is provided by Open Cape. Like, you know, that's an important thing because we have challenges, so.
Well, just to amplify on that, it literally, right now, we don't see anything beyond a lot of advertising on the town website. There's a crawler with news that goes across on the homepage of the website, and there's other news down below. That would be a place to basically to inform anybody who shows up on that landing page. Okay, click here, perhaps, and you can get to a page that tells you how to do this. or to get more information on it. It's not going to be anything that's really extensive. There's not going to be any other time other than to take information that somebody else hands and puts that up on the website. Maybe with a crawler, the crawler that I've seen there before. Tired of your bad internet? Do speed testing and help us get
I
better.
wouldn't even say tired of bad. We're not going to say bad things on our website
right.
about people that provide
put a
services
link.
that we're
This
contracted
is
with.
the challenge. Yeah.
Want to improve your internet.
Opportunity to have your connection tested for speed. Yeah.
Video,
Right.
we're gonna do like dry runs, so we can test out the material and simplify it.
So this is my suggestion. My suggestion is, you have an idea that it would be helpful for the town to help advertise the availability of this testing opportunity. When that's ready, let us know that this is ready and this is what we'd like, and then we can think about seeing if we can get it up on the website. And I think, Marlene.
So, typically what we do, because we do this all the time,
Yeah.
is we will post exactly what the organization gives us. So we don't alter it, we don't change it. We will post whatever the Cape Cod Commission and/or Open Cape sends. That's how we treat all of the postings we do for MassDOT and everybody else. So we don't editorialize it, we don't comment on it. We take what they have developed and we post it and link to it. And that's how we would proceed.
We issue a press release too that goes out to the actual press. I have my own distribution list, and it goes out to staff as well as to associations and stuff. But also the banner, though, we keep, just as an FYI, that is for emergency purposes only. It is not for promoting
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
participation in a
It's kind of like our police signs, they're used for traffic management.
Right, so I'm just
not for
letting you
promoting
know,
the
those
parade.
are for advisory only purposes, when you see red flashing across, that's, so.
Okay.
But we can do a graphic and link to the information,
Yeah.
that is, yes.
And that is the only lift we want town hall to have.
One other ask here, only because I saw it driving up. Is there an opportunity to put some of this on one or two of the mobile signs?
We just had this discussion with this 4th of July parade. They wanted to use the mobile signs to
It
promote
belongs
the
to the police
parade.
department.
And
It's
a
for-
police department
yes.
says we can use them for traffic management and emergencies, but we can't use them to promoting other things.
Okay, short
So be
answer.
open to everybody.
Direct from the police chief.
Who's still on the call.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So,
All right, so let's
Yeah, like I said, one of
let's
these-
keep it simple. We have we are gonna be doing our goal setting and our select board planning and prioritization in July. So we're gonna take all of these things under advisement and we're gonna work together to kind of create a prioritized plan. But yeah, I think, advertising the opportunity to have your speed tested and have it part of an improvement.
regional
A
effort.
regional effort to improve in broadband, that would be fine.
no.
Okay,
Sounds
thank you
good.
very much.
Thank you very much for all your work and for following up on all the things that are happening and what we can be involved in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Keith is there, okay.
All right. Next item is discussion draft comprehensive wastewater management plan. So, this is revisions based on the April 9th, 2024 meeting comments, schedule of preparation in advance of fall town meeting, resources and time commitment necessary. So, Environmental Partners is not gonna be here, but we did get an updated thing from them. And,
Sorry. Usually if they call, they know where I am and
yeah,
it's,
ignore it and, yeah, I guess. All right, let me see where we are next. Oh, this is a separate document, right?
Yes, this is on its own, it's so large.
290 pages.
All right. All right, so do we want to talk about things? Is someone prepared to speak about what's been changed? This identify revisions based on April 9th. Do we have any way of identifying these things?
So if I can provide kind of some broad context.
Okay.
And, you know, not go page by page, obviously, but after your last meeting with environmental partners, the staff working group talked to them pretty extensively about kind of what this plan is communicating. And a couple of things that I think are important to understand or to draw your attention to is that EP did respond to your question about sewering alternatives for the priority watersheds. So there's, if you remember, this entire plan is watershed-based, and there's really 3 tiers of watershed. Highest priority is the TMDL watersheds. Second highest priority are the impaired watershed, or the impaired water bodies that don't have a TMDL yet, but we know that there's a problem there. And then the lowest priority are the direct discharge watersheds. So the whole plan is organized around the fact of addressing the highest priority areas first. So if you, and I'm gonna, if you look in the executive summary, table ES6, for each of the priority watersheds, starting with the Magansett-Squatigue and Phineas Harbor, which are the TMDL watersheds.
Do you know what page this is?
It's in the packet, I don't know, but it's on page 14. It's on page number 14 within their actual document. So if you look at their document, page number 14.
You said ES6?
ES6, yeah. And this is the summary, because digging into the appendices is just,
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
We're good. We're good.
so,
Sorry, Bob,
There's-
excuse
oh,
me for just a
sorry.
minute. Bob, are you looking on your phone?
Yes.
Do you want the paper copy to look at it so you're not?
Okay, do I need a wheelbarrow to carry it over? It's only 300 pages. Thank you.
290.
Thank you.
You might want to like have it sit in the middle and like Kathy, like share it with you.
Share. Sorry.
that's okay. And I want to spend a little bit of time with this, because this is actually going to be a critical decision point that you're going to have to pick a horse on which way we're going here. So on this table, EP has given you a conceptual cost. And by conceptual, we mean it may be 50% less to double. So remember that there is high uncertainty with all of these numbers. So if you're thinking about this, if you're thinking about making a decision based on lowest cost, we don't know.
No.
We don't know, because by the time, if you were to put these in the range, to put these in a range from 50% less to double, there would be so much overlap that there's really no difference
Right.
at that point. So remember, we are at kind of the earliest concept of probable cost. So very uncertain cost. But what EP is doing here is they're laying out two alternatives, both of which strike that. They're laying out two alternatives, both of which DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, now define as conventional alternatives. So last summer or so, we had a lot of discussion about the fact that DEP was changing their definition of what a conventional alternative is. Essentially, prior to Bourne's plan, conventional alternative only meant traditional sewering, collection, treatment, discharge. During your planning period here, before we got to the end of phase 2, DEP confirmed that general use IA is now defined as a traditional alternative. So this table is laying out choices between traditional alternatives. So the general use IA is defined as a traditional alternative by DEP. And what that is, it's an on-site septic system that is denitrifying to a standard of at least 19 milligrams of nitrogen per liter or better. So DEP sets that threshold and has issued 5 technologies a license, essentially permission to operate and be installed as general use. And that means the effluent is 19 milligrams a liter nitrate or better. And when I say or better, or below.
Right, it meets the threshold
Yeah, or it's below.
sub-threshold.
The other alternative that EP is laying out is, again, very conceptual cost numbers for sewering. So for a collection system, identifying a site for treatment, and identifying a site for discharge.
Can I
So-
ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
There's just something on this that I, I don't want to make assumptions,
Yeah.
but I'm going to look at Finney's Harbor.
Yes.
So Finney's Harbor General Use IA, parcels 1,135. Average daily flow, 374,550. Finney's Harbor Sewer is only 436 parcels and 86,100. Are these two options providing the same level of nitrogen treatment?
They're getting to the same target. So because the centralized treatment plant is more effective at removing nitrogen than the general use IAs, you can serve, or I should say,
You only
you
need
can
less parcels,
sewer
right?
fewer parcels and still meet your
Threshold.
target
Yeah.
to reduce nitrogen being discharged into the water body.
Okay.
Right.
So this is unusual. This setup is unusual. This is really the first CWMP where you have to make a decision between traditional options. And there's all the uncertainty on the cost side, obviously, but there's also a lot of uncertainty about how this plan will be reviewed by MEPA and by DEP. So, in kind of laying out the framework, I should say, the select board has to make a decision on, are you going to proceed with moving forward with the general use IA systems, or are you interested in proceeding with traditional sewer options? And the reason I say you have to make that decision is that your consultants, EP, and your staff, me and health department staff, need to communicate that to MEPA. And part of the steps of a CWMP is a MEPA review. And that involves a public hearing. That involves a 208 consistency review with the Cape Cod Commission. That includes a process of collecting comments and making revisions based on those comments, and then holding another public hearing for the final proposed CWMP. Now, we had been consistently proceeding on the track of general use IA technologies as your traditional option. And when we were proceeding consistently down that track, we're fairly confident that the MIPO review will not be as complicated or as time-consuming as building a sewage treatment plant. So if you proceed down the path of general use IA, it's our expectation that we can do the MIPA process over the summer and bring a plan to town meeting in the fall. Now, if the board wants to shift away from that, and the board wants to shift away from general use IA for the watersheds and investigate or tell MIPA that you're going to be investigating collection and centralized sewers, then we need to anticipate a much longer MIPA review. And we would not go to the fall town meeting. So the schedule is a little bit dependent on which track you want to take. The other.
Can I ask you a question before you?
Sure.
So I'm reading some other plans, other comprehensive plans in other towns. They don't decide just to sewer or just to do IA. They'll say, in this section of town, we're gonna do the sewer, but then we're gonna do the IA. And I'm using Finney's Harbor kind of as an example. And I can't remember the numbers right now for the Bourne, the middle school wastewater treatment plant, which we know we're putting $2 million into it right now for the circular thing to be able to have backup capacity, right?
Yep.
We know that the capacity of that plant is much higher than what they're using. We know that they don't have year-round flow, so the summer off-season. So would there be some benefit to looking at, and I don't think we really went down this.
We didn't go down this.
Where around Bourne Middle School, what areas could we attach into that facility that would make that facility run better? Maybe not to the 86,100. For some reason, 39,000 something sticks in my mind, but I think they're only using 9. I mean, it's
being confident sometimes, I just can't handle it.
So
Mary Jane, the Bourne Schools wastewater treatment facility their capacity is 35,400 gallons per day.
Right.
They're only typically treating 8 to 10. So the Finney's Harbor Core alternative flow rate is approximately 86,000 gallons per day. It's above the capacity, but it says here that the gap can be addressed through additional of flow equalization tanks, addition of treatment train to Bourne Schools, WWTF, or construction of a second facility of Bourne School campus to be added to the existing.
right, but even if you didn't do the whole 86, suppose you said there's a lot of parcels out by Chester Park, over by Monument Beach and all that really congested that's right on the water. we could do IA systems there if they're way distant. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, and I just, we didn't really have a chance to like say, you know, what makes the most, what do we, not to silo this, not to say CWMP's over here and we're deciding about what we're gonna do, but we're also with the school department spending probably $4 million on that wastewater treatment plant in the next 2 years, because there's the $2 million that we're doing, but that's not that's not the only thing. I just don't like to make decisions that are too siloed. And it might not be the whole answer to sit Finney's Harbor, but it might be a partial answer. You still have to sewer. I mean, you still have to put the sewers in, and that's not inexpensive. That's a very expensive part of what you're doing. So that's,
Right.
It is.
and that's not broken out. Like the sewering is, yeah, but so.
It's not broken out, and that's why it's not that's why
Right.
it's not made, that's not why that is why it is not split up, because this particular watershed will most likely have to be a low-pressure collection system. So it's a very expensive collection system. So reducing the number of users on the system will not work kind of in our benefit, will not
Okay.
work in our benefit financially. Because you want, so if you have your nitrogen reduction target of 1,740 kilograms
Right.
of nitrogen a year, and you can do it if you're gonna do it by building
436 parcels.
a low pressure system, then you want as many users tied into the system as possible.
Okay.
But if what we
I think I get what you're saying. So it's part of the issue that we're talking about tonight is, do we need to take a step back and look at this and delay till the annual town meeting in May, or do we want to just kind of push forward? And I think there's going to be questions when we go to public hearing, and that was one of my questions. So in the schedule, you have the final plan, which is, I guess, sort of what this is. We didn't change this or something. This is what this would be. And then you go to public hearing. You have a public meeting, right?
you have a
And-
public hearing, yeah.
Yeah, and then you go to MIPA, and during the MIPA process, there's another public hearing with
No,
MIPA.
no, so, the MIPA does the public hearings. You can do a public meeting, you can do an information session, you can do outreach, but the town doesn't hold a local public hearing. MIPA holds 2 public hearings.
So in what you said today, in the schedule of the plan of study, based on 2020, the thing,
yeah.
whatever that Gantt doc thing is.
Mm-hmm.
In this phase 3 step, after the final plan, there's a public meeting. And they've always talked about having a public meeting before.
So included in your CWMP packet, I think, is the latest updated schedule from May 28th.
Okay.
And this is what EP is laying out as their recommendation for you.
You want to have it up, right, Peter? What page is it on?
Yeah, it's 291, it's like the very bottom.
So there's, EP suggesting that this summer in July, that there be a public information meeting. Okay?
Yeah,
So that's a public meeting.
yeah, that's what, yes.
There's also, at the same time, which could be combined with that meeting or could be separate, at the same time in July, there is a MIPA site visit and public hearing, which is concurrent with 208 plan review in mid-July. And then the MIPA comment period runs. People submit comments if they so choose. MIPA reviews those comments. The plan is revised based on those comments. And then there's a final public hearing in September, in mid-September, mid to late September. So the MIPA process requires 2 public hearings. One with, the first one with a comment period, and then another public hearing after the comment period has closed to essentially air the final plan. EP also has another townwide informational meeting on the schedule if you want to do another separate meeting. That doesn't quote unquote count for your MIPA public hearing.
Okay.
Now, this schedule is, EP put this schedule together based on all the watersheds moving forward with general use IA. This schedule does not account for the time that MIPA may require to do an expanded review for centralized sewage treatment and discharge.
I'm missing, you said some sort of July public meeting, public workshop.
So if you look in the descriptions, you've got project management as one group.
The table I have goes 21, 22, and 23. I don't see a 24.
So
No, so 290, what, are you on page 291?
Yeah, those are July 24.
It does go, you have to have it, you have to make it right small so you can kind of see. So,
does everybody see the 2024 part of the calendar?
yeah, June 24, I see,
Okay.
submit.
So if you look at, so you've got, your first column is phase, your second column is description, then you go into 23 and 24. Let me.
So, there is no public hearing between now and the time before this goes to MIPA review.
No, there is not. Public hearing is triggered by filing with MIPA.
Okay, the public workshop as part of 3 was the WAC meeting in April.
But if you look up at the project coordination meetings, if you look up at project coordination meetings, it says public information meeting, town-wide, and if you read across, there's an orange square in July of '24. So I'm not referencing the WAC meeting.
Where are those public information meetings listed? Is that in a different document?
Well, MIPA uses the environmental monitor, correct?
Yeah, MIPA's gonna do an on-site visit and have a public hearing as part of their MIPA process. I'm saying, is the question here that we take what we've been presented here tonight and say, okay, we're ready for MIPA review? And it just goes, and there's no other, this final document, which is now, because I got a lot of questions from like WAC members based on like this document. So, I think it's helpful for me to know what these questions are. I don't want to take action like right today to say, okay, I'm ready for the MIPA review. I want to be able to get it explained, ask questions, and then have another select board meeting, which is going to probably be July 2nd or something, where we would say, okay, are we ready to proceed? Yeah.
It's not, we're not ready for MIPA. We are not ready to submit for MIPA because the first question MIPA is going to ask is, what are you proposing? Are you proposing sewers or are you proposing general use IA? That is the first question MIPA is going to ask. So until we can answer that question, we're not ready for MIPA review.
And it has to be either or.
By watershed, you have to, so especially in the first 5 years. So MIPA's gonna look at the whole 20-year plan.
Yep.
And they're going to expect to see kind of a course of action sketched out for years 6 through 20. But MIPA's really gonna hone in on what are you proposing for the first 5 years? Because the CWMP has to go back for review every 5 years.
Okay.
So the first 5 years, we need to be able to demonstrate, we need to be able to demonstrate on a table like, ES
Yeah, there is,
6.
yeah.
We need to be able to demonstrate, which line are you using, or are you using a different combination of lines? So until we can explain to MIPA in the first 5 years, our intention is to do this many parcels in this watershed using this technology, that's when we're ready for MIPA review.
Okay.
So if there's not agreement to proceeding with general use IA in all of the watersheds, which was the conversation
Yeah.
leading up until recently.
I think the thing that's beneficial, though, about this ES6 thing is there's a couple comparisons. It answers a couple questions. The costs are conceptual on either side. And there's this minus 50 or plus 100%. Within the capital costs, within the operational costs, there's not a statistically significant difference. And that goes back to psychology, like my psychology, thing. When you're doing an experiment, determining what a statistically significant difference is, between 12 million and 13.8, when it could go either way, minus 50 or plus 100, that's not a statistically significant difference. Even with the 48 million and the 37, it's not, because you're dealing with a different number of parcels, and so I think it's answers questions that people can ask. It answers questions that people may pose about why are you doing this way or that way. There is a schedule in this that lays out the non-watershed permit, years 1 through 5, there is, and then the watershed permit schedule.
Yes. Yeah, so,
20? Is that what you're looking at?
ES1 on page 11, table ES1 is the Title V default, so that would be no watershed permit. And then table ES2 is a watershed permit example.
And that's for the general use IA system.
This is for general use IA systems
So this is our
only.
plan. This ES1 says if we do this without a town-wide watershed permit. That's what they say in here. It's a town-wide watershed permit.
But
Well,
no, it says if the town pursues a watershed permit from Megansett and Finney's Harbor.
yeah, the watershed
Underneath the
permits are not
ES1.
town-wide.
Well,
It's based on if the town pursues a watershed permit from Megansett, Squatigue, and Finney's Harbor, then less than 100 systems need to be installed per year for the watershed permit period of 20 years.
Right. So the difference between table ES1 and table ES2 is that watershed permits are only available for your TMDL watersheds, if you so choose. So if the board chooses to pursue watershed permits for both of your TMDL watersheds, then if you design your watershed permit in such a way to spread out the implementation, but that's an if also.
So the watershed permit, it says, it balances the implementation townwide, which is where I got confused. So you do a watershed permit for Big Anson, Squatigue, and Phineas Harbor. It allows you to stretch out your implementation there over more years. And then in those earlier years where you wouldn't be in those first 5 years, it allows you to do some in some of the more non-critical, but Buttermilk Bay, Pecasset Harbor, Pecasset River, you might target some properties that are closer or causing more harm or something like that, right?
That's a possible way to organize a watershed permit. I mean, it's all subject to what you propose to DEP and what ultimately gets approved by DEP, but that is one possible use of a watershed permit.
Okay.
But there's more to just spreading it out over 20 years that involved with a watershed permit.
Yes.
It's not just about the length of time that you gain.
But we don't have to say that in this. We can say to MIPA, if we do watershed permits, this might be what our timeline looks like, but if we don't, this is what our timeline would look like. Are we proposing both of these things in what we propose to MIPA, or is the MIPA document going to be different than this?
No, this plan, in its entirety, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, so the whole plan goes to MIPA. You can show your thought process. You can show these different scenarios. You can show the table that describes sewering. You can show the table that describes general use IA. You can show the table that describes watershed permit. You can show the table that describes no watershed permit. What you need to do, though, is make a decision, and what's not in here yet that needs to be added before MIPA is we've gone through all of this analysis, we've looked at all of these options, and our proposed plan is to do this. So, for example, our proposed plan for Phineas Harbor, just as an example, is to not proceed with a watershed permit and do general use IA. And that's what MIPA reviews, what you say you're going to do in the first 5 years. Or you say, we are going to apply for a watershed permit and we're going to propose centralized sewering in Phineas Harbor watershed. So your plan can show all of the different alternatives because that's what you've used in your decision-making process. But this plan hasn't got to a point yet where you've actually narrowed it down to say,
Yes,
this is what we
the path.
want to do for this watershed, for this watershed, for this watershed. So the only two watersheds where watershed permits are an option are Megantic-Squatigue and Phineas Harbor. Watershed permits are not an option for the other three.
They don't have TMDLs.
They don't have,
No.
they don't have
Okay.
TMDLs.
All right, sorry to interrupt. You want to keep going on what's different? I'm getting it slowly, but.
I've kind of lost track, but,
So that, you started with that ES6 to say this is in there.
yes.
And that actually kind of has to come out as it is.
No.
Won't be changed.
No, it doesn't need to be changed.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be changed. It can stay in there just as it is.
With the
But- we need that last table that says, for
Right.
this watershed, this
Right.
table can stay, but there needs to be an additional table before we finalize the plan, where you've made a decision for each of these watersheds on which line to pick. So you're not showing a choice anymore, you've picked, so,
Sewer or general use
yeah,
for each watershed.
yep. And if you're doing a combination, then you've identified how many parcels are sewered and how many parcels are IA. Because for Buttermilk Bay, we had been talking about proposing a combination of general use IA and of sewer. EP has also given you another option of general use IA and enhanced IA.
Yeah. Which doesn't require a replacement, but an upgrade, correct? You're just enhancing the existing,
No, it's,
or does it
no.
require?
It's these are the pilot and provisional systems.
Oh, okay.
So these are the ones that haven't been tested enough to receive general use, but
They're
they're
not licensed for traditional.
not traditional. These are alternative technologies.
They're alternative. They're not general use IAs, they're enhanced IAs that haven't been approved for general use.
Right.
But by 5 years, they might be,
They might be, yeah.
you know,
they're-
so it could, and then that could be part of the reason for changing your numbers in 5 years, because
Right.
you can do that, yeah.
So we really need to kind of grapple with how you want the first 5 years of your plan to be laid out. That is our real job right now. And
For each watershed.
for watershed, for technology, and for the parcel, and for the number of parcels necessary to hit your reduction target.
Well, if we don't go with watershed permits from Megansett and Finney's Harbor, right? Then we have 5 years to do 285 in Megansett and 1,133 in Finney's Harbor, because we're not doing watershed permits. Well, and years 1 to 5 is really years 1 to 7, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I don't know when this plan's gonna get approved, but it's
Right.
5 years from when,
Right. So these 5 years, so when I talk about 5 years in the CWMP, that is not necessarily the same time period as the 5 years we're talking about under Title V. Title V is regulatory. This is not regulatory, this is a planning document.
okay.
So Title V is the state sanitary code, and they have set a date, and they have said it's 5 years from that date. But that is DEP's regulations.
Yeah.
Not that is not
And
your,
their 5 years is actually 7 years from starting this July. So for people that are in Megancett's Critique and Finney's Harbor to replace their systems, it's 7 years.
right, because it's the new, they're catching the new construction first. And then they're bringing in the upgrades to existing properties. So that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Do not equate those 5-year periods.
That timeline, right.
They're not the same.
Yeah.
What determines when our first 5 years for the document of, what determines when that
So-
starts?
So EP has laid this out that year 1 is at some point in calendar year 25. So, and that's because they have to pick a number.
Yeah,
They have to pick a number sometime.
okay.
But this is, again, this is planning, not regulatory, and that is subject, that's subject to shifting.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to Does anybody else have any questions about
No,
like
that
what
was
this
mine.
says?
Just as I was reviewing, as I was trying to go through this and just, it's a lot to absorb. It's a lot of information. And how best to really truly separate out, what the needs are, how best to implement the required goals that we need, and what's best for the town, right? So, because that's all encompassing. And we're making decisions on things that are gonna affect the town for 20 years, next, 10 plus 20 years, right?
Longer, yeah.
Longer.
You won't even see improvement maybe until 10 years from now. If it started today,
Yeah, right. So it's, but just to weed out and look at it from, okay, what's the best pathway to get to that goal that we need to get to based on a regulation? And in doing it with, I don't know if you call it the least impact or the right impact on the residents, right?
So I think if I can make a suggestion,
Yeah.
the board needs to have some discussion about where your thoughts are. And then we need to bring EP back. But EP really is at the point where they need input from you about where you want to go, what you want to achieve. We're at that point where, they can answer questions, we can talk about revisions, but until we start making decisions about what are we going to do, what are we actually going to propose, that's what has to happen next.
So, in the document that goes to MIPA, right now we have table ES1, default implementation timeline, and ES2, which is watershed permit example. Do we have to tell MIPA which direction we're going?
You have to lay out you don't have to tell them explicitly whether you're going to apply for a watershed permit or not, but you have to lay out your first 5 years, your plan. So if you're not working under a watershed permit, your plan, if you want your plan to be consistent with Title V regulations, then years 1 through 5, you need to be realistic in saying all of our focus is going to be, because there's a limit on how much we can.
TMDL
There's a limit on how
areas.
much we can do, right? So it's not. This is already so aggressive; it's hard to wrap your head around. But if you're saying we're not going. The decision is, are you going to file for a watershed permit, yes or no? If it's no, then your plan should reflect that, and that the first 5 years, the efforts are really geared and directed at the TMDL watersheds.
Yeah.
Is there, can we have some discussion, and we've been at this for like a half an hour now, I'm trying to watch the time here, and we're getting close to 9 o'clock. But I do think that we need to have some discussion if we're gonna have to give a direction into MIPA as to whether we're going for watershed permits or not. We need to have some discussion about what does it mean if we do, what does it mean if we don't? And what are the differences to the town and what are the differences to the people? And I don't think people understand the shift. I don't think most people, when they say, oh, just go for a watershed permit, I don't think they understand the shift of responsibility and what onus that puts on the town. And if that's the direction that the town wants to go, then we need to be able to explain to the people in town meeting what we're voting for when we vote for this. because it becomes the town's responsibility then. It does not become the homeowner's responsibility. It is, all the burden becomes on the town. And that's a very different thing than you're responsible, and if you don't do it and the state comes after you, then it's on you. I mean,
It is very different.
so
Yeah,
that's,
but I think just some bullets, I just need more time to do pros and cons, right?
yeah,
And just bulleting some things, brainstorming, like, you know, doing just traditional brainstorming, bullets of, okay, just throw it out, like, we own your front yard, if you go watershed permit, basically, right?
yeah, but,
Um,
yeah,
It's-
not
yeah.
only do we own your front yard, but we own your operation, we own your maintenance, we own your making sure you do it. There's a lot that we own.
Oh, I know, and that's why I think if we did, you know, that brainstorming bullet, have that conversation, brainstorming bullets, then we can, and then look at, you know, general use IAs and what, you know, the bullets of what that means. I think we can make a better, you know, informed decision and get feedback from the community as well.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna listen to Gary, and then I'm gonna talk about, like, how we deal with this process, and then we're gonna have to move on.
Go quick. Gary Maloney, Buzzards Bay. That was my question that was coming back around. You're already working on it pretty well, but I just wanted to make for clarification as a member of the public that kind of thought was going on. When you said they, meaning the Board of Selectmen, need to make a decision, did you mean that they will make an executive level decision absent the voters of the town of Bourne about which direction we're going? Or that they will bring it to the town of Bourne at town meeting to say, we got option A, B, and C, and tonight we're talking about A. Do we have the votes for it? Or how's that gonna work? Because especially with a 5-year plan, that then would be reliant upon the public's will to keep following it and change the members every 3 to 4 years. And say, we don't like that plan. We're gonna change direction because we didn't like what they said in year 1. Then year 2 or 3, 2 board members change, and we start to shift. We need to pick a plan that we're gonna stick with, a realistically working plan. But who picks it? You guys or the town members? That's my question. Before we even get to option 3A for Buzzards Bay or 3B
I mean,
that
maybe you
includes my
can
house.
outline this, let me try to answer, and then you can correct me if I've got this mixed up, because this is what I've been trying to get at. When are the public hearings? When do we get input? So based on what it,
But I'm
based,
the only one that showed up, so
yeah, I
maybe there is no
know.
public input.
Well, no, Kathy's here, and Bob's here.
Bob and myself showed
Yeah,
up,
and
and whoever might
Keith
be
was-
those
yeah.
3 people on the screen. It's Melissa.
So we have this draft in front of us. The select board has to make some decisions that will be incorporated into a final document that will go to MIPA for a MIPA review of the document. During the MIPA process, MIPA will come and have a public hearing here where they will listen to input from the public, if anyone shows up. And then they will do their assessment, either with or at that, with or shortly after. The Cape Cod Commission is going to do a 208 review, and I think they have a public hearing too.
They can, though, they can be combined.
They can be combined.
Yeah.
So there are those 2 reviews. There's going to be public input at that point. When they finally review the document, we're going to have a final plan that we are going to bring to town meeting for town meeting to approve as our comprehensive wastewater management plan. Whether town meeting decides in the future to fund that plan is another question, whether the voters approve funding for that plan. After 5 years, we have to do sort of an update to the plan, which I assume goes back to town meeting or maybe not, I don't know. But there is a process, but we do take the plan to town meeting. If we go to town meeting this fall and they say, we don't like this plan, we don't want you to do this, then we have to go back to the drawing board and make changes and come back to town meeting. But town meeting will approve the final plan.
I think you might get an idea how they feel about the plan when they start to be able to talk about it, if they show up. Then you say, whoa, maybe that plan isn't working after all.
Right.
But I'm afraid we're already into MIPA's review at that point, and you're kind of showing your cards about what you can and can't get done in certain periods of time.
Yeah.
And that may make your next review even more difficult.
Yeah.
Because they'll say, wait a minute, we already learned this last time, you're gonna have to fix that now as well. So I would like the one review we put to them to be the one that's gonna be passable by the people, not just looks like it'll work in front of MIPA. Because once the people that want to bring out the pitchforks come to that meeting, that's not going to be where you want it to look bad, I don't think.
But that's not our process to determine, Gary. That's, the comprehensive wastewater management plan process is a process that is set by Mass DEP, and we have to follow their process, so,
But it is our plan.
yes. But they have to, it has to be done under their process.
Mr. Dwyer.
Okay. Bob?
One quick piece of input as a citizen. I had a septic test, Title V test done today on a property I have in Sandwich. And I spoke to the tester who said that his company does 300 IA tests every month. But the RME for this, it's all going to the county. The county is set up with the testing in the laboratory tests go into the database goes up online, and whenever they have a fail for any reason, only then does that go back to the local Board of Health, who generates and automatically sends a letter out to the company that maintains that system, because these things are all proprietary, as well as to the property owner. And at that point, essentially there's some kind of a correction process, but it's all, as far as I can tell, it's mostly delegated to the county as the de facto RME.
It's not, the county's not really an RME yet. It's only collecting the data on the testing that's being done, which is different than
being the full RME.
Being the responsible management entity.
Understood.
Right.
But,
so they have been doing that testing, and when people do the test and when people get it to them, then they keep it in their database, and when it shows a failure, then they tell the local Board of Health, but there's no organized required testing or required that people actually do it. It's really, the onus is on the property owner to make sure that they're doing it properly. But the county is working on, they do have a grant for establishing a countywide RMA. So they are working on that whole concept. So.
And it would not be unreasonable at this stage of the planning process to say, presuming that there is going to be an easily accessible RME to unload most of the burden from the town's Board of Health, to say that that would inform whether you go for watershed permits or the 5-year default. It's certainly it'd be impossible to do that within the town itself. So there has to be an external contractor or an external agency to do that. And I think saying in the plan that you presume that one is going to be set up in time to actually implement this is certainly a way forward, given the tight time if you want to get this in front of the town meeting in November.
Yeah. October. All right.
They address it in this.
So one of the things that Marlene and I have talked about is over the summer, we're going to meet only twice a month for regular board meetings. Schedule a once-a-month workshop, right? That's sort of like what we've been doing for marijuana, but we're going to limit it to once a month, not in the same week that we have a Board of Selectmen meeting. And so we need to assign a time for doing that workshop to like get a hold of this. I'm not optimistic about getting to the fall town meeting with this. In my town meeting experience, I feel that a 47-day MIPA review that we don't even get to the beginning, it's not going to happen. I just don't see us being ready for it. And so in a way that's okay, because I'd rather be good at it and have the opportunity to feel really informed and confident in what we're doing. But I do think that this is the topic, that if we're going to start having workshop meetings once a month, that this is the topic we work on until we get to the point where we say, okay, we're ready to go to MIPA. And is the board down with that?
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have one more marijuana meeting scheduled for the 12th, but I think that that should be that last one for a while, hopefully. All right, thank you, Marlene, for your explanation. It was very helpful. it's a good, like, to read carefully. But it was helpful to understand the context of what we need to be looking
Well,
for.
there's so much information, it was difficult to determine what the focus should be with all this data. Where should we be focusing thank you, where should we be focusing our attention on the biggest decisions and how best to, make an informed decision?
Yeah. I think, I mean, as kind of plainly as I can state it, there's not going to be much difference between sewering and general use IA when it comes down to the cost. They are both
Expensive.
very expensive. I mean, there's no cheap way out of this.
And I feel that some people feel we should be sewering and some people feel we should be doing IAs, and so that's why I'm not sure what the right answer is. But we can start, we can start with the IAs, and if it's not working, we're gonna have to go to sewer, so that's the answer anyway, so.
You can, and that's why this plan is set up with a 5-year adapted management. I don't know how much, are you trying to move us on the agenda?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
after 9, yeah, maybe have this on July 2nd, or maybe we'll figure out when our workshop meeting's gonna be, and, we'll talk about that scheduling next week. We'll talk about that schedule for the workshop next week. Yeah, because we have other things to do here. Discussion, establish a building committee for ISOM's new office and garage.
There was nothing here in the packet.
Did you have anything, was there anything in here, or was this just for
No,
discussion?
this is the initial, this is your
Just to talk about.
initial chance to,
So we're gonna talk about establishing, we're not gonna vote to establish.
nope, it's a discussion.
Okay.
We have no charge or scope or anything to read.
Yeah, that's what she's saying. But I think one of the things that we want to talk about is who should be on this committee and how big of a committee. Is that one of the things you want to talk about? Or,
Yeah, I think you should have some discussion about, what your expectations are with the building committees.
So just as a background, the OPM RFP is out and it's due June 21st. Okay.
Well, from,
Is it to the extent that we've had, for the school building committee or the police, fire, I
Well,
mean,
yeah, so school building committee membership is set. It's set, you
Right.
have to have these
Right.
particular people on it.
but this is not
But we
at
don't.
our discretion, or
Yeah,
is
but
the
I think
expectation?
that's a good model, because I think we need to be more specific about the membership. We just can't have people saying, I want to be a member of this committee without contributing something in terms of expertise. So we need to define what kind of people we're looking for to serve, whether it's architectural background, have a builder's license, what are the things?
Attorney.
Yeah, attorney, so that when they're going through their pieces, you have someone with expertise that's giving some valuable input into the function. This is what we're talking about a little bit, and whether it's a 5 or 7 member committee, or,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know, me personally, I think at a minimum, we need a member of the Board of Health, since they're the ones who oversaw the site assignment for this. And they they put a lot of work. They should have some input into
The building?
well,
I would say planning board over board of health.
well, either or both. I mean, it's,
What
And-
I can't connect the dots on that one.
With the Board of Health, well, it depends on who the member is. The person, the Board of Health may have construction building, the construction background anyways. The reason why I brought,
So it's not specifically board of health. I would agree on the construction background. Someone who would have, any type of that experience. in construction management. I know we'll have an OPM.
Do we want someone with, who's an architect or planning or design background? Or,
I think there's value, given the situation with other buildings in the town,
Yes.
that someone has somewhat of an engineering or architectural background.
architectural or drafting design or something, yeah.
A professional in the field.
Construction management background,
Yeah, or
licensed builder, preferred.
commercial.
Yeah, commercial.
Commercial. There's a big difference between commercial and residential.
Licensed commercial builder?
Yeah.
Attorney?
I mean, building is building.
I would recommend having an attorney. I would.
I think it's helpful.
I would
Yeah.
agree, yeah.
I mean, this doesn't really have to do with the site assignment, so the building, I'm not sure it has to go with the Board of Health, and I think the Board of Health, if they're going to be paying attention to something, what I want them to pay attention to is the CWMP. And their regulations and what they have to be prepared to do to Title V, they have a heavy lift to deal with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Depending on which track you choose, they have a very heavy lift.
And they're gonna need to focus their time on that, so.
Yeah.
So, we have, do you want a 5-member committee from the
I-
public, or you already have, you're gonna have people from ISWIM, right?
I think ASA at least should be on it.
Yeah?
If not ASA and Dan. But at least ASA
As a voting member.
as a voting
Yeah.
member.
Yeah.
So, do you want anybody else from staff, or just from? No.
Only because of quorum issues.
No, I mean from staff.
I realize that, but if you have a staff member that is a voting member and you have more, we're having that issue with other committees. If we're talking internally, there could be a quorum
Oh,
being met.
okay.
So you have to be very careful with staff having voting capacities.
capacity,
Right, but if
okay.
one is fine and then the others are
You
just
want an ex
actual
officio
support
non-voting for
system,
staff,
that's a
or
different
Are you
story.
sufficient with just having the ISWIM staff?
I am comfortable with ISWIM staff.
Okay. So do we want to have more than, if we did ISWIM, ASA from ISWIM staff, someone with construction management background / commercial building, licensed
Experience.
commercial builder preferred, that's one. Attorney, architect, design background person, and at-large member, that's 5 people. If we got more people, we could always take more people, but I think a 5-member building committee is probably enough.
So and I'm always thinking in my head, we don't want a member of this board on here at all if we're thinking out loud.
Oh, yeah, you want it to be on this. Well, I could go with 7 and then have a member of the finance committee or capital outlay.
Yeah.
Either finance committee or capital outlay. That's a really good person. Those are people that's great to have them. And there was a mix-up on something that had to do with wastewater, where it said finance / capital, and they thought they had to be both, but that wasn't the idea. But either finance committee or capital, then you have a 7-member committee. Does that sound good?
That sounds,
No more than that.
that's better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, hopefully, we know how schedules work and conflicts work, and even when you set a specific day of the week, meeting monthly or whatever the case may be, I'd rather have a quorum related to a 7-member committee than a quorum related to a 5-member committee
agree.
in
Yeah.
decision-making.
Yes.
Yeah.
For something, for a project
Okay.
of this scale.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good, but when it gets built, it's gonna be pretty awesome.
My question is based on other models we've done with the Southside Fire Station, the Bourne Intermediate School, the superintendent and the fire chief had voting powers, but here we're proposing Asia and not Dan. Is there a reason why?
I only put one member from ISWIM on there.
I mean, do we want to give the department head the courtesy of?
I would say ISWIM staff member, let them decide who's voting and who's ex officio.
That's fine. We can say one member from ISWIM and leave it up to the department to send their,
Send their
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
So you want to be able to advertise this, right? That's one of the reasons we're talking about this tonight, so that you can advertise. When do you want people to respond by?
When's the RFP due?
For the OPM is June 21st. And then there's gonna be a period of review.
so I'd like you to appoint the committee on the July 2nd. Let me pull up my calendar, sorry. So I'd like to have letters of interest back by June 26th at the latest.
Okay. And do we need to write anything about the charge, or you're just gonna write something general about? Is this a design and building committee, or is it only a design committee? A planning and design committee, a feasibility and design committee, or is it building also?
So feasibility's done.
Okay,
This is, feasibility's
building.
done. This is a building committee.
okay.
I am happy to write a very brief charge if the board is okay with that.
Yeah, for the purposes of advertising, I think it's fine, and then if we have to change anything when we appoint them, we can, make a little bit of tweaks. So we have a 7-member committee consisting of a member, 7-member committee. The voting members are a member with construction management background / or licensed commercial builder preferred. Attorney, someone with an architect or design background. At-large member, select board member, and either finance committee or capital outlay committee member.
So I would not be advertising, obviously, for the
The
ISWIM,
ISWIM.
the finance committee, or the select board. So there would
Right,
be,
you would just write to them and ask them for members to be appointed.
we'd be advertising for one at large, and then we would be soliciting interest from those 3 particular
Right.
groups.
To respond by June 26th. Okay, is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Jean,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Emery,
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
MJ, yes, 500. Yeah, if you get to the enterprise by Thursday at noon, they'll get it in Friday. So I'm just saying. Okay, where else is that on that one? Discussion and vote to finalize the attached select board liaison appointment list.
Motion to approve the FY '25 Select Board Liaison Appointment List as submitted in our packet.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Jean. I have two things to note on this. I don't have it up in front of me, but I'm going to go by memory. So I did talk to George Slade, and he said the letter of interest, and what was really interesting to me is that I confirmed with him that he needs to be the Bourne representative in order to serve as the
Yep.
the vice president and whatever finance and executive committee. So it's important that he be our appointed representative on that advisory council in order to continue to do those functions. So it is a selectman designee, so if at some point in time he's no longer doing those functions, that could come back to the board to be a board position. The second thing is the Andrew Campbell position that was MMR, a Community Advisory Committee. This is a really important committee right now. This is the Environmental Management Council's Community Advisory Committee, and the two committees that advise the Environmental Management Committee are the Science Advisory Committee and the Community Advisory Committee. And so I would like Ms. Campbell to come and talk to us, because they're making comments on the gun range. And it's important that and on whatever other things that are happening on the base, that it's important that we have some updates from him on his position and how he's representing the board on these different things. So that was educational to me to figure out what that was. So I have a motion by Peter and second by Jean to approve the slate as presented. Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Jean?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
MJ, yes, 500. Okay. Town Administrator's Report.
I have a short one. As of May 31st, ISWIM has diverted 6.74 tons of food waste so far this year. The fire department has been awarded a SAFE and Senior SAFE grant to continue providing age-appropriate fire safety education. The SAFE grant program has been in place since 1995, and during that time period, the number of children who die in fires has dropped to historically low levels in the state, from 24 or more deaths per year to 0 deaths for nearly 3 consecutive years. The Senior SAFE grant was launched in 2014 for older adults who face a disproportionate risk of death or serious injury in a fire. And finally, the fire department also received $20,500 in additional grant funds to conduct 4 oil spill training sessions for all DNR and fire department personnel, and money to provide drone training and equipment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, minutes of May 14th, 2024.
Motion to approve the minutes of 5/4/2024.
Motion by Peter.
Second.
Second by Anne Marie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Roll call vote. Jean?
Abstain.
Peter?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
MJ, yes. 4-0-1. Committee reports. Correspondence.
Correspondence. Select Board's correspondence for June 24th, 2024. A, DEP letter, explanation of differences for PFAS training area. B, DEP letter, CSE Phase 2, former ammunition supply point east. C, JBCC email and letter regarding public comment sought on changes to its community involvement plan for the cleanup plan, Superfund site. D, notice to abutters for 88 Sagamore Road Coastal Stabilization Project. And E, planning board notice of vacancy as Zarovitz.
Thank you.
When are we gonna advertise for a joint meeting at some?
We got the letter, so what do
At
we
the-
have, when do we have that on the agenda for?
I think you have 30
we-
days from, we received the letter.
We have an agenda item, and so we will advertise for it.
As one of the future agenda items.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna change this future agenda items to future agenda items related to correspondence.
Okay.
Because that's our opportunity, because we can't really comment on the correspondence to say, is there anything we want to follow up from? And the answer is future agenda items related to correspondence is the appointment and advertising, right?
Okay.
So you'll take care of the advertising for the appointment, right? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
The only thing is we're talking about another time, not right now.
Next meeting date, June 11th, next week, then on July 2nd and 16th. We have our retreat, July 30th, then August 6th and 13th, and September 10th and 24th.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Jean. Roll call vote. Jean?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Third.
MJ, yes, 500. Thanks for hanging in, everybody.